It's time for what many have been waiting for, the Snake Advanced Techniques Guide.
Colonel, mission accomplished.
Even though Snake is already a good character in Brawl, he still requires usage of his many advanced techs to help him get a real edge in higher levels of play. So let's jump right into the first and likely most famous AT for Snake. What better way to start out the Snake AT guide than with his infamous DACUS? The word DACUS is an acronym of Dash Attack, Cancel, Up Smash. To put it simply, it's canceling your dash attack into an up smash. Snake is not the only character that can do this, however, he's one of the few that have a real benefit of it as his DACUS covers major range. The DACUS is performed in a few different ways, however, to make things simple, the general easiest way to perform it for many players is to simply start a dash attack animation by holding left or right hard, and then quickly inputting C down while quickly inputting up and Z at the same time directly after. The C down performs the dash attack, while the up and Z perform the up smash. It may take a good amount of practice to get this down, however, Snake happens to have one of the easiest DACUSes to do with this method. DACUS itself has quite a few uses. You can use a DACUS to quickly approach an opponent, especially because it's a hard move to fully shield and punish. You can also use it as a quick punish that can even lead into further punishes. Do note that while you're in DACUS animation that you are vulnerable to attacks, so using it when you are super close to an edge is usually not the best idea, especially if the opponent is at low percent. Pivot nading, also known as B reversal, is a tactic most Snake players use to recover safely while landing against opponents. This is an immensely useful tech that all Snake players should definitely learn. Not only does it get Snake out of tough situations, but it is also hard for an opponent to punish. To perform a pivot nade, you'll first want to note which direction you have momentum towards. If you are falling to the right, to pivot nade towards the left, you simply press B while quickly pressing left on the analog stick immediately after. If done correctly, it'll completely shift your momentum in the opposite direction. If done wrong, you will likely pull out the Nikita or just pull out a nade while continuing in the same direction. It takes practice to get used to the timing, but is an essential tool that Snake players need to utilize well. If you need a real example of how useful this is, take into account that many opponents will expect a Snake falling towards them to land directly in front of them. This allows them to easily space away and punish anything the Snake player attempts to do. A simple pivot nade throws a wrench into their plan and requires them to predict a pivot nade to punish it successfully. Even if they do punish it with a prediction, note that they will likely detonate the nade as well. This is great if you want to trade damage and get them closer to kill percent, as Snake will usually die way later than a vast majority of the cast. Don't be too predictable with pivot nading, however, because many characters can safely punish a pivot nade with a well-timed move. There is a small trick with pivot nading to get you out of even more sticky situations. I do not know the official name of this tech, but I refer to it as the reverse pivot nade. It is taking a pivot nade and reversing it to cover the options that a regular pivot nade does not. It is a rather difficult to explain move, so here's the basic rundown. Say Snake is falling towards the right, however, this time he's facing the opposite direction than he normally would be. In this specific situation, you cannot do a normal pivot nade. It will just stop you completely, leading you to get punished just as easily. Fortunately, there's a way to pivot the same direction you normally would. The downside is the input is different and more strict than a regular pivot nade from my experience. In this scenario, you would want to input B and then immediately right at almost the same exact time. It is generally the exact opposite directional input of a normal pivot nade despite accomplishing the same thing. Combine this tech with regular pivot nading and you'll be a very difficult Snake to predict and catch. Pivot grabbing is a technique all characters can do. However, some characters have better pivot grabs than others. Snake is one of those characters. To put it simply, a pivot grab gives you better range than a normal grab. It is a great move to catch players who fall directly into you instead of trying to guess where they'll land. A pivot grab can cover more ground. I believe there are more than one ways to pivot grab, but the general way most players seem to do it is to start dashing in the opposite direction that you want to grab. So if you want to grab an opponent falling left towards you, then you'll start running to the left as well. As soon as the dash animation starts, you'll simply immediately press the opposite direction you dashed on the analog stick while also pressing the C stick and Z button at the same time. If you do it right, you should have a sliding animation while grabbing. If you do it wrong, you'll probably do a smash attack or not move. It'll take a little practice to incorporate pivot grabbing into your playstyle, but once you get it down, it's an extremely useful asset. In my basics guide, I've already explained general uses of C4, however, there are quite a few more tricks to fully utilize what the C4 is capable of. First off, let's discuss placing the C4 down. As simple as it seems, if you just stand there and put your C4 down, you'll be very open to attacks and it'll be blatantly obvious where you put it down as well. Instead, place the C4 in the air only. This places it much faster and makes it more difficult for an opponent to see it. Next, be wary of the stage you are on before placing a C4. If a stage has any part of it that's darker than the rest, the C4 makes a nice hiding place there. Don't put it on platforms that are too bright. Putting it on moving platforms is a great idea, however. You would be surprised at how many opponents forget where you put it just because it's on a moving platform. Platform canceling is a great way to mix up your approaches against opponents and confuse them. While Snake has less platform cancel options than many other characters, he still has the ability to make use of it. If your opponent is recovering from Haya, you may platform cancel to surprise them with an attack. There are many ways to platform cancel. For Snake, I'd suggest using either air dodge or an aerial that isn't neutral air or down air, or even forward air. The hardest part of platform canceling is actually setting up for it. Unlike in Melee, in Brawl there are only certain platforms you can cancel on this way. From what I understand, they have to be moving platforms. The best example is the Smashville platform. Because it is moving, it's tricky to get a good setup to make use of platform canceling. Once you are in position, however, you simply have to do a double jump with Snake while holding down on the analog stick, and during your double jump when Snake is almost completely above the platform, you either do an air dodge or aerial. If done correctly, Snake will jump onto the platform immediately with no lag, allowing you to chain it into an instant attack. That concludes this Snake tutorial guide. I found these by far the most important Snake ATs to learn. There are more out there, but these are the most important and useful ones that I myself use against opponents at any time in a match. I hope you've enjoyed my Snake Guide trilogy. As of right now, I do not have any other Snake guides planned, but make sure you are subscribed in case I do mini-series of Snake tricks for whatever I may have forgotten in this video.